What is going on, FCS Fans Nation? Welcome to your Friday night FCS pregame. Thank you with all your options, all the podcasts and stuff you listen to during the week. Bookend your week with us on a nice Friday night. Currently starting out the show, I'll just apologize. We're late because of me. That's my bad. But I'm joined by Jamie Williams. Jamie, how are you? And what are you drinking this evening?
I'm doing all right, fellas, even though it's 9:45 out here in the east. I got a little blue moon action going on because it's a Friday night. That's when you drink.
Exactly. We're pre-gaming tomorrow. It's an all-day pregame. Kyler Neal, you have a big game tomorrow. What are you drinking?
No game's a big game. We're not playing Idaho. Who cares? That's the only game that matters.
Still salty, I see.
Still salty. I don't know. There's stuff that's coming down. I'm just drinking to drink. Who knows?
Just drinking to drink.
It's called lawnmower, though.
I was gonna say, what is it? You just showed us like the top.
Lawnmower. It's a light local Houston beer from Houston, Texas. Carbaugh Brewing.
All right, nice. The Ivy League game's already done. Dartmouth putting the stomping to the Princeton Tigers. Some of us, maybe not on this podcast, maybe had Princeton ranked kind of high, maybe not. Does this change? Does this change your opinion on ranking Ivies, or just that Dartmouth should be ranked higher?
I mean, we can go with me because this is all directed at me, right? You jerks. I mean, here's the thing. Villanova lost. Eastern lost. All these top 10 teams lose, and some of them lose bad. Villanova lost bad, right? 31-18 is not a really great loss. Well, guess what? Princeton just got their butts kicked, and this is one of those games where the stats don't show how the game actually went. If you just look up the stats, you're like, Dartmouth and Princeton probably outplayed Dartmouth, right? Look at everything. It's such a close game on the stats. The scoreboard did not show that, right? But I already had Dartmouth ranked. I already had Columbia ranked. I already had Princeton ranked. I'm an Ivy supporter. All you other scrubs don't do it. You're like, hey, William and Mary sucks, and then they beat Villanova. Now they get all this praise. Some dude named Bill, some dude named Mary. I have no clue who that team is. All I know is the Ivy League is awesome, and I'm going to continue to rate them, especially in spite of Jamie Williams. That's the main thing. I'm just going to continue to do it in spite of Jamie.
I'll just go to FBS then.
Yeah, might as well.
Yeah, wait, why are you even here?
Yeah, why do you even vote? Dude, if I was a CAA, I'd kick you out right now. Not let you participate, not let you do anything.
Yeah, that's a great topic. Let's get into that. Since, reminder to our fans, you can ask questions using the comment section, whether you're watching us on Twitter or Facebook, Twitter or YouTube. We missed Facebook because it only allows you to be 10 minutes late. Damn you, Zuckerberg. But maybe we'll have good old, what's our friend Zark Muckerberg? Maybe he's a Twitter or YouTuber.
Can we not forward this to Facebook? Because that's where like half the comments come from.
I know they're gonna have to be on YouTube tonight because
can we share the YouTube link to our Facebook page?
Yeah, you want to do that? Be side producer while I post the question.
Producer Dammer.
Producer, don't even put yourself in the same light as producer Dammer now.
Let's see. Is it actually live? Like
yeah, just go to YouTube.
Fans Nation.
Jamie, start with you since this affects you the most. What's kind of your opinion on the whole CAA being uber salty on James Madison leaving? And can you kind of explain to the people that maybe aren't aware of it what's all happening with that?
So the presidents of the other universities in the CAA have denied James Madison's waiver to be included in the championships for the rest of this academic year, including the soccer championships that was getting ready to be hosted at James Madison. So a little salty about that. But at the same time, I get it. I mean, the same thing happened to ODU back in 2013. I thought that we would be able to stay in contention for this year, and then next year as a transition would be ineligible, but that's not the way it happened. But also at the same time, love the saltiness because it's getting a lot of publicity. USA Today, Sports Illustrated, it's all over the place. So, I'm not, I'll go along with it and just be salty too. But I also understand, why would you want a team that's leaving to win your championships? Because we're going to win a bunch. We're already in the field hockey championship that just finished today, so I'll play that one tomorrow. So take the last scalp on the way out, and we'll see what happens from there. The basketball teams unfortunately get screwed because they're not going to be good enough to get an at-large. Thankfully, softball will be.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is softball the only school that kind of program that got hurt by this? Because they went on quite the run last year. Do you think? I'll be the first to admit, I know nil when it comes to NCAA softball. Are they going to be able to put together, if they don't win the conference, to still get a bid? Like, is the CAA that competitive to where they would justify James Madison getting it without the automatic bid?
I think we could. And I'm not sure that the schedule is exactly set, so why not just go play an independent schedule, play a bunch of SEC teams, play Sun Belt teams, forget the CAA. Who cares? We're not playing for it anyways, so play a schedule that sets us up for success to return to the tournament and potentially Oklahoma City. That was huge this year. So,
yeah, I wanted to see and Kyler, I think, is more on the this is why it's interesting. I see UCF at both sides. Kyler's going to be more on the conference side. I'm more on the team side here. I would have loved this James Madison, and I get that it's hard because they're literally still allowing you to win the football championship because I know it benefits them the most. But I was like, man, I would have loved if you guys were just like, middle finger, we're just going to play independent till then, and you can go take your Flow Sports deal, eat glass, and we'll just, do pay-per-view, and we'll probably make as much money doing that as we do from the Flow Sports deal, and
that's exactly what I tweeted yesterday. Yeah, that's exactly what I tweeted yesterday. I wish the basketball teams had time to reset their whole schedule. NBC Sports Washington will carry a bunch of our games, and we could play other teams, but it's a little too late for that. But I want softball to do it.
Yeah, because I've always said like right now, especially, the CAA needs James Madison more than James Madison needs the CAA. Obviously, that's why they're leaving. And I've always said in the Big Sky, like, for how much Montana fans complain about some of the way the conference is ran, they hate that there's so many teams or whatever. I'm like, well, why didn't you guys throw your weight around? Like, Montana is that school that has the weight, they have the donors, they have the money, and the biggest chip in the conference. Like, if they were unhappy, the Big Sky wouldn't do anything. I'm like, I feel like James Madison, opposite side of it here, right? Where they should have just been like, you know what? You don't want us. We really don't need you. And just really screw over the CAA. But
I'm not even in the CAA or James Madison side. I'm just in the stop playing a victim when your school was the one who helped support this. That's all I care about. Like, you literally dug your own grave in this section. You were very supportive of this ODU thing. You were one of the front runners trying to get this whole thing approved. And then it happens to you, and dude, it sucks for the student athletes. It sucks for JMU. I feel for all the student athletes and the fans. The fans don't support this. The fans never did. It's just an administrative thing, and all I want is James Madison as the school to stop playing the victim. Go, hey, guess what? There's a reason why they applied for the appeal right away, right? They knew this was coming. This isn't one of those things where they're like, oh, we had no clue. You had a clue. You did this to another school. You've done it to a couple. So it literally sucks. If anything, James Madison should have just been a little bit smarter. Should have played the game with the Sun Belt a little bit, like I said on Twitter, and I think Jamie agrees with me on this one. Do an under-the-deal table handshake, sign a letter of intent, sign an NDA that says, Sun Belt, guess what? We're going to you. But right now, what we're going to do is win a whole bunch of CAA conference championships, which will make your invitation for us look a little bit better. Just, play the game that you're still searching for that team, or James Madison, they're not sure if they're going to come. Play by the rules of the CAA that you set forth, win some championships, announce at the very end, and then go, screw the CAA. We were always going to go. Who cares? Now we just won a couple more titles. Screw you, and then leave. Like, it is what it is. It sucks. And, I mean, if all the other schools, support this and, cancel the vote, because it is a stupid rule. Like, I mean, I'm not supportive of the rule. I think it's stupid.
But their conference has it, right? I think they're the only conference that has it. So I had never heard of it. I was unaware of the Old Dominion stuff until, definitely probably after the first 8 hours of the news.
Yeah.
I was like, stupid. And then it started to surface. Like the same thing happened to Old Dominion, and it's a precedent. And I was like, okay, well, that makes a little bit more sense. But like, I've never heard of that where a conference is like, you're still here, but you're not valid. Like,
no, I don't think.
Let's do it with Southern Utah. It would help some of our basketball programs this year.
Right.
I don't think for the WAC, they shouldn't be eligible for Big Sky championships.
Yeah, I don't think it's in any other conference. It's one of those things where like all the schools supported it, and now when it doesn't benefit someone, now you just play a victim. Like, it's stupid. We all agree with it. Just stop playing a victim. I mean,
yeah, it was one of those things back.
Issues.
Yeah, it was one of those things back in 2013 where the CAA was kind of bleeding because all the good Virginia-based basketball teams were heading out of the conference. Old Dominion, VCU, Richmond all left the conference, which really severely weakened CAA basketball, which was not a high mid-major, but it was a solid mid-major.
Yeah.
And so, of course, everybody else stuck it to him, including James Madison. It was a unanimous vote. But I think we also played it perfectly because now the blood is on the CAA, even though it's our fault. So who cares? Joey D can bite me. You want to know why? Because he stinks.
Right, yeah, I mean,
I'm trying to enlighten, the 100 Twitter people on my Twitter, the JMU fans who just think that this is such a petty thing for the CAA to do. I'm like, it is. But it's petty for James Madison to do. It's petty for Villanova to do. It's petty for Delaware to do. It's petty for everyone who did this in the past, and it's petty now. But it is what it is. It's not the CAA's issue. It's JMU's issue.
Yep. On to the first listener question. We have Jabari Jones. Do you think that Kennesaw State will make the move to the Conference USA? I'm going to say, if we're talking like in this round of alignment, no. I think that for me, that's pretty straightforward. I think one, their stadium holds 8,300.
It's pretty small.
They would almost have to double it to even. I know Kyler and I go back and forth on like the actual rule, but as it's written, it's 15,000. And whether people meet that or not, I feel like the NCAA would have a really hard time justifying giving a school that can't even sell, 10,000 people like into their stadium the ability to go FCS. Because if you're at that point, even with Eastern Washington is an easier yes than Kennesaw State. Like Georgia already has 2 Power 5s and 2 G5s in a state that's not that much more populous than the state of Washington, which only has 2 P5s. So there is room for the only G5 member in the state of Washington compared to the state of Georgia, where it would be the third G5 and second P5. This has been my argument with Utah all along, with people talking about Weber making a move, is I go, the state of Utah is less populous than both Washington and Oregon. Both of those have two Power 5 programs, and that's it. Utah has 2 Power 5 programs now and a G5. I don't know if they can justify a second G5, which has always been my argument with the Weber thing. So I know Texas right now is just going football crazy and will sign anybody, but I just think Georgia right now, though it's a football crazy state, it's not like Georgia State is selling out. Kennesaw is a suburb of Atlanta. Georgia State plays in downtown Atlanta. Like Georgia Tech has problems with attendance. They're in downtown Atlanta. Like if you can't sell out in downtown, what makes you think that P5 in the burbs is going to do it? So, though I think Kennesaw, if they were in the position, would make a lot of sense in the Conference USA, I just don't think it's there right now. And I don't think the state could support a third G5 program. That's my opinion.
I mean, I can go next and then, maybe Jamie, if he has additional opinions, but I love the revenue aspect of everything, right? I'm a numbers guy. I'm an analytics guy. I like looking at different things. When you're pulling up the sports.usa today NCAA revenues, Kennesaw is in the worst position to move up for a few reasons. Sure, they have an amazing campus, thousands of kids. What is it, 30-something thousand or 40,000 kids in their actual school? Just that alone, you're like, that's an FBS team. Here's the deal. Their total revenue in 2019, before the COVID year, $25 million. That's not that bad. Their total expense, $26 million. And here's the kicker. Out of all the 120 plus schools that are listed, that includes like Eastern Washington, who everyone knows are financial troubles. They have the highest total allocated funding coming from school, and they're still under. So that's horrible. When you have 93% of your total budget allocated from student fees and you're still not making positive revenue, where are you supposed to go? That is something that I think just makes zero sense. I think Kennesaw in the future, if they continue to build the fan base, continue to, upgrade facilities and all that, sure, they are a prime school to make some type of jump. Right now, they're not ready. They're not ready in facilities. They're not ready in fan base. They're not ready in revenue. They're not ready in financial freedom. I mean, I don't see it at all.
Yeah, Jamie.
I think y'all have nailed it. What exactly I was going to say is what you said, Chris. Is that would be 3 FBS teams in the greater Atlanta area, and no matter how football crazy, unless you're Houston, Texas, and look how bad Rice is, it's hard to sustain that. So as large as that school is, and still can't get the attendance, and Kyler just hit the numbers. We don't have to repeat that. I just don't see it for them, although you would kind of look at it and think so.
Yeah, because actually that brings up a good point too. And we're just talking metro areas too, like Dallas-Fort Worth, the Metroplex, one of the largest in the entire country. TCU struggles with attendance. SMU struggles with attendance. We'll even be polite and say Denton falls in that area. North Texas struggles with attendance.
Allen High School doesn't, though.
Yeah, they love Friday Night Lights out there. I'm just saying, I know, because I saw a couple of the comments popped up, well, it's in a major recruiting bad. I'm like, yeah, well, I get that that's a bad argument in the sense that, Texas has a bajillion freaking teams, but it's also a way bigger state and be the 21st economy on its own. It's a huge state, size of Spain. But I have a hard time seeing 3 teams in the Atlanta area survive, especially when the funny part is everybody in the Atlanta area cares more about driving the hour, 15 minutes to Athens and being a Bulldog. I just don't see Kennesaw being able to pick up enough attendance coming from Georgia Tech, who's improving, Georgia State, which has a really cool stadium, right? It's a converted, old Atlanta Braves stadium that's right downtown. So it's got MLB amenities, honestly, one of the nicest P5 or G5 stadiums in the entire country. And then you have whatever Kennesaw kind of puts on to their basic generic bleacher bowl. I don't know. I'd love to see it because I think Kennesaw's a cool program. I just don't think it would be wise or they're in the position.
I think with the population they have for their school, they can figure out a way to do it. The only difference is if you have 40,000 students and they're not even getting 1,000 students in the game, right?
Yeah.
40,000 students. Let's say somehow you can get 15,000 of them to be super fans. They pack up this stadium. You can expand. The only difference is those students aren't paying for games, which just increases your total allocated amount that's actually given to the school, which they're going to have to pay for tickets, which means that's not a sustainable thing to go FBS, right? They need a way to figure out how to get the fans engaged, get the alumni engaged. That's the big kicker. Get the alumni engaged. Once the students graduate, you have such a large alumni base. Yeah, then you're totally fine. And yes, they have the highest budget, like Jabari Jones is saying. The difference is they also have the highest allocated amount that the school is paying for this budget, which means they can't support it without the school paying for this sports budget. It's
not self-sufficient.
It's not self-sufficient. They have a higher allocated percentage that the school's paying for than Eastern. And we all know Eastern's financial situations. And the difference is Eastern's still making money at the end of the day. I know the finances doesn't say it, but with revenue, total expense, and allocated that funding from the school, we're still making money. Kennesaw is still losing after 93% of it's allocated from the school.
They have Kennesaw State only has a $40.3 million endowment. I did not know that.
Yeah, they need to get the alumni involved somehow more.
Yeah, you're right. 41,181 is the enrollment as of fall 2020.
Massive.
So that's a down year, right? Because of COVID. So call it in a good year, they're probably pulling 45,000 students.
Yeah, they have school. Tons of potential if they capitalize on that potential. Right now, it's not there yet.
Yeah, and it's just gonna be hard. And I know that. I'm looking at now Jacksonville State only has about
8,000 kids or something
million in endowment. Wow, I get it that there's more school. Being out here in the West, it sometimes shocks me when I learn more about these schools in the South and on the Atlantic coast. JSU, what I thought as like a very kind of underrated Southern institution, only a $13.6 million endowment.
Yeah, they don't
We
have a
make
lot
fun
of
of
donors.
Eastern all the time.
I
for
know,
being
that's what I
like
was
an
saying.
$18 million endowment, and like everybody else, even like Southern Utah, has like a $40 million endowment.
Hey, and we got 24 million now. You're welcome.
But
no,
I get
that's
that.
what I'm saying. Like sometimes you don't need endowment's not as important as everyone thinks it is. When you're running the hard numbers, that's more important. Also, when you're looking at the facilities and the infrastructure to make things happen. Also, do you have the correct amount of sports you need to happen? Like, can Kennesaw add more scholarships if they need to, add more women's sports? JSU pretty much already has it covered. They already have everything. They already have the facility. All they're going to be doing is adding a few more football scholarships because I believe they already have the amount of women's sports to capitalize on that anyway. They're already in a better position. And you know what? Endowment, who cares? As long as they're getting money to the football stadium, to all of these other things, which they are, they're upgrading that football stadium. It's a little bit different than total just endowment.
James Madison has $100 million more endowment.
Mm-hmm. And UC Davis has $1 billion.
Like
and UC Davis has 1.3 billion more.
Yeah. Unless you're going, I guess, Pac-12 and Big Ten, the ones that seem to still care about that. But that's a good point. Dustin Helton wants to know who let the FBS guy on the show. Well, that's what we were asking, Dustin. That's what we were asking. Jamie, have you given any say? Because I'm assuming, are you going to abandon us after JMU makes the jump? Are you going to
kick him out?
Be an FCS head?
Rah VMI.
So you've already made your choice. You're going to be a Kedat.
Yeah, of course.
Wait, we should do some game show at the end of the year. Like, who does Jamie choose? So we're going to abandon your VMI pick because it's stupid. The SoCon sucks. Well, we
need the SoCon might be positioned to take over the CAA in the Big Three, especially with JSU and Sam Houston leaving the WAC and ASUN.
There's a big two now.
Just took a step back too.
There's a big two.
All of a sudden, the SoCon's looking pretty feisty.
There's a big two. There's a big two. They're not getting Richmond.
What's the point of staying there now? You don't think so? Jamie would know.
Nah, I don't think so.
Too many bridges burned back in the day.
Yeah, we need to do a show like who does Jamie choose?
The Jamie Williams pick finance.
Yeah,
we do it like the Football Chris show where you change the background and change the hat over top of my head as it
do a recruiting special.
Yeah, exactly.
The FCS Fans Nation Network all recruiting Jamie special. Game. make it live from the sideline.
Like a 5-star. Not really.
Like we did with the Big Sky Podcast Network, the recruiting special.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. I'm trying to find it. We've gotten a couple questions rolling. I try to keep it.
I like what Patrick just said.
Which one is that?
The one at the bottom. Set it up like a commitment reveal.
100%. 100%. And then also Dustin Helton. Reminder: Sam can't afford the jump. They're going to be house poor. Good show, fellas. I'm too drunk to join, and it's a party out here. Yeah, I heard he's out in BFE.
Yeah, there's the Renaissance Festival, as Ted Mosby likes to call it, but the Renaissance Festival in Texas, it's a pretty big thing. It's like 60 acres. I'm totally making up numbers now, but it's massive. You like there's commercials for it, which is crazy. I live in Houston area, and it's huge, but I'm still a West Coast guy where it doesn't entice me too much. I love Game of Thrones, but come on, man.
All right. So the one I saw was actually from Joshua Hoffman, who I can't believe is just not out celebrating his hopeful win tomorrow. Who is this week's How the Nutmeg Did They Lose?
Is that Bullwinkle?
Yeah, this guy was on South Dakota State's campus, if you didn't see it earlier.
That picture was real hard to see. I was so confused.
Where's Rocky?
I just Googled.
So who do you guys got for like the team that you're kind of like, how the F did they lose to this team this weekend? Like, do you have an upset alert?
Yeah, Princeton.
You stole mine.
I don't know. That might come through.
Yeah, I think you're.
I mean, there's like 5 ranked games, but I don't know that there's anybody that's going to jump out. I mean, last week obviously Villanova losing to William and Mary.
Yep.
And plus, I think the biggest part of that one is just how not close it was. It was 31-3.
Yeah, kind of like the Dartmouth Princeton game. Like, I knew Dartmouth was good. I did not think they would blow out Princeton that much. Like, 31-7. That's.
But what's crazy
weird.
is look at the stats. Like, they're so even across the board, and there wasn't tons of turnovers.
Well,
I didn't watch the game. How did this
They
happen?
had one pick six.
Okay,
had a
but
pick
that
six, I
doesn't
know
account
that.
for the other 20 points.
Not at all.
Did they just get good field position all game?
I don't know. I didn't see any of it.
Yeah, I didn't
Other
watch
than
this
the pick
game.
six,
I just watched this. I looked at the stats after when you guys were like, dude, Princeton's trash. Kyler, take him out of your top 25. And then I was like, wow, this is a super competitive game. How did this happen with the score?
All right, I got one
So-
for you, Joshua. I said this on Tubs of the Club, so it's
Oh, here
Big
we
Sky oriented. Look, if Bo Baldwin is going to be able to turn around Cal Poly, they have to start getting wins. Like at some point, I get it was a COVID year, whatever. He's yet to win, other than against San Diego, a Division I game, right? So that's where I'm like, and I think if you've looked at Cal Poly's scores recently, they are starting to show that improvement. I truly believe Bo Baldwin is going to get a statement. I can hang my hat on this for recruiting win in one of these last 3 games. Is that you agreeing or disagreeing?
No, they're not beating Sac State.
Sac State barely beat Northern Colorado last week. Do you think Cal Poly is that much worse than Northern Colorado?
No, I think they're on the same tier, but there's some games where, a top team doesn't look as good as they should.
But it's a rivalry game. Aren't you supposed to throw the records out?
Is it?
According to Wikipedia.
Well, that's
Maybe
just
Causeway
because
as Michael Scott once said.
no, that's not the
Wikipedia
Causeway
is
Classic.
I said
It's
it's
the
not.
Causeway Classic,
Oh, yeah.
but it's some rivalry. They also claimed like Fresno State or somebody too. So
Yeah,
Kinda
it's
like,
the same
one of those.
rivalry as Montana State was with Northern Colorado a few years ago. Like, it is what it is. There are Cali schools, but the distance between them is still probably the distance from James Madison to Maine? Like, Cali's such a big
From what,
school.
San Luis Obispo to Sacramento?
It's still 4 hours?
Yeah, I mean maybe like.
but in the
Stony
Big
Brook
Sky,
is
that's
damn near.
close.
That's super close on the big side. No, I don't think I love your optimism because I'm a Bo Baldwin believer. I'm a
See,
Bo
that's the
Baldwin
thing.
supporter.
I'm losing faith in Bo Baldwin because I'm like, at some point he's got to start winning, or else, like,
No, not until he actually has his athletes in there. Dude, he recruited like 5 freshman quarterbacks. We're going to see them start coming in. He has none of his actual players that are actually playing right now.
look, all I'm saying is if Joshua Hoffman wants how the nutmeg did they lose this week, that would be one that people would say that. I think Sac State has struggled against Idaho State. They've struggled against Northern Colorado now. I see no reason why there isn't a world in which Cal Poly is able to get them. Like, as I'm looking through this schedule, actual realistic upset I see other than maybe Jackson State losing to Texas Southern. But that, to me, doesn't feel like a huge upset with everything going on with Dion and Texas Southern, the program that it is. Like, that's it, unless Idaho State beats BYU.
Come on. But guys, what did really ran for Northern Iowa to lose to Illinois State?
No.
Yes.
After like the big wins to go in and just like drop a load against Illinois State.
Yeah.
I don't think it's gonna happen, but that would almost seem on brand for them.
You think? I'm just surprised Illinois State hasn't quit the season yet this year.
Here's the deal, like Illinois State, there's a couple different. They're a tough program, and in quarters they've looked great. But overall, they're just down like they have in the last few years. UNI is going to drop some type of game this year. I mean, it's going to happen. It always happens. Happens in the Valley more than anywhere else. Where outside of North Dakota State, one of the best teams loses to a middle of the road team because that middle of the road team is still pretty dang good. So I don't think that'd be too crazy.
And it would also be on brand for William & Mary to go up to Delaware and find a way to lose too.
Yeah,
exactly.
What about
looking
St.
ahead?
Thomas?
They might be looking a little ahead.
What about St. Thomas against Davidson? Do we think St. Thomas has a shot to, in their first year in the FCS? I don't think they're eligible to win the conference, but they're 4-1 in conference right now, going up against conference leader 5-0 Davidson. Like,
I
that's
don't think
one,
they're
I
going to
guess.
win.
But okay, do you think there are any upsets this week, Kyler?
There's definitely going to be some upsets. I mean, it's just.
So who do you think it will be? That's the question.
All right, give me.
Well, it's
Because
kind of like
obviously,
the
obviously the money is on every single possible upset. You say, yeah, that's not going to happen because you're going to hit 99 out of 100 of those. We're looking for the hay in a needle stack right now. You got to put your hand in those prickles and just pray to God you're grabbing out the one piece of straw.
I think the one most likely to lose, and they still might. I mean, they're still playing a ranked team though, so that's like kind of the kicker. But Southeastern Louisiana versus Incarnate Word, I think that's such a good battle, to where most people would probably view it as a huge upset because Southeastern Louisiana is top 10 in the nation. What were they ranked? Top 7 this poll?
Yeah.
7 or 8 somewhere.
So you would just think that's the type of team that would go in and dominate an Incarnate Word, but Incarnate Word's really good. I don't think that's too much of an upset. So when you're like asking me which ones are going to be upsets, I'm trying to think of like off the cusp, what are real upsets versus what, because I don't think that's really an upset. I think it's a very competitive game where either one has an opportunity to win. Southeastern Louisiana should be favored, but I don't view it the same as like some massive upset.
Yeah, I mean, that's 5 games that are with ranked opponents. So I think it's hard to say, wow, that's a shock. I mean,
yeah, I wouldn't say
any of those teams. So
yeah,
there's not. I just think there's not a lot to go off the board on. So you got to reach for crap picks like Illinois State and freaking Cal Poly.
Yeah, I mean, Northern Arizona versus UC Davis may be the closest nutmeg we can find. And I
Robert
still think
Morris versus Kennesaw, maybe? It's at Robert Morris.
No, Kennesaw is going to blow them out. I think UC Davis NAU is the only one that has a potential for really a nutmeg, but I don't also see it happening. I think UC Davis still wins. But, you know, there's some weird things with NAU. You never know what to expect. And there's weird things with UC Davis. They haven't looked particularly good. And I think NAU is way better than Cal Poly. And I think Sac State is about the same as UC Davis. So I think that's such a more optimistic look at which one could potentially upset the other. Cal Poly versus Sac State or NAU versus UC Davis. I'm going to go NAU.
I was going to pick that, but I was tired of talking about the West Coast.
Well, to bring it back.
Go up to the FBS, you bum.
Right now, I think the Big Sky is prime for upsets. Could Northern Colorado on the long grass of Greeley pull off the upset against the Grizz that just look like they can't put together a game right now?
They don't have grass. It's field turf.
It's field turf now, but it'll always be the long grass of Greeley. I mean, I look at that. They struggle with Southern Utah. Northern Colorado almost gets Sac State at home last week. Like, is that one maybe?
Maybe. I hope so.
Out of all the ones we've said that aren't ranked opponents, Kyler, who do you think is the most likely to happen? Has the most,
I think
at least
NAU
5% chance of happening.
I think NAU over UC Davis is the most likely.
Okay. I can see that. Jamie, is that where you're going to?
Yeah, I mean, Northern Arizona has shown a little bit of signs of life, and UC Davis, you know, they look good, but ever since Rodriguez came back from injury, he hasn't looked like the same guy that beat Tulsa and looked like they were going to run up and be that team that broke into the top 5. So, yeah, that's probably the most likely. I don't think I'm going to pick it, but it would be the most likely of what we've named.
Portland State gets Weber. Man, dude, I'm telling you, the Big Sky this weekend.
You want to hack Joe DeLeon picked Portland State because you guys keep pushing Portland State on them, so he picked those bastards this week.
Who is pushing Portland State?
So it's the hack of the week.
One of you Portland State a week or two ago in the hack.
Oh, so they are the hacks of the week.
Yeah, it's because you started it. Then there was another Portland State comment. Then I did another one that said they're the most underrated team who, you know, they've beaten all Big Sky teams who have a combined 1-16 record versus the Big Sky. So they are the most underrated team in the NCAA. So the hack jobs, they're really thinking you and I are like actually thinking Portland State's good, or they think we actually hate them. But it's really, we're just trolling the Montana News radio station and Bobby Hawk. Yeah, I call him Hawk, not Hawk, because
how about Bobby Hack?
Bobby Hack.
Yeah. All right. So we've been talking a lot about FBS conference realignment, right? We've talked about, you know, Conference USA already. Last week we spent some time with North Dakota State, James Madison, etc. We have Christian in the YouTube comment section asking us, do we think the ASUN will reach out to the West Florida Argonauts as a new conference member? Yes.
I hope so.
I 100% think yes. They're basically Kennesaw State. Like the program's like 5 years old, and they've already won a national championship and been to 2, I think. Like,
and they thrashed McNeese this year.
I believe the coach that they had that took them there is now the coach at Western Carolina. If I'm thinking right. And then
I think that's
didn't Kerwin Bell coach there? So he brings an offense. Western Carolina's been terrible for years, and they're still not great. But they do have a transfer quarterback, and their offense is kind of fun to watch because they just sling it. So if you're going to be a terrible team, have an awesome-looking offense that at least gets people excited. And I think that's what Western Carolina has, just to give them a little bit of press. But, yeah, I mean, West Florida looks primed to be a future FCS member. And we need more than a couple teams, so
we need more FCS teams out of Florida anyway. Like,
we're really
Florida
low.
A&M. There's Jackson State, but like, actually, Jackson State's in Mississippi. But
it's Florida A&M and Bethune-Cookman,
and currently none are eligible for the playoffs.
They are
true eligible, but likely to make the playoffs are small.
Yeah,
but sorry, I'm trying to.
It'd be cool to have West Florida in the FCS. I think there's a couple states where we just want to see more FCS programs. I think Texas, Florida, California, and Ohio would all be great because they're the 4 biggest football states. Why not try and fill more FCS programs in there? I mean, Texas, you have Texas A&M Commerce. I think that would be perfect. You have this West Florida who, they already beat up McNeese this year pretty badly. I think what a cool program, what a cool story to jump up to the FBS. And I think they would win a lot of recruiting battles. I don't know what their facilities look like. I honestly don't, but having an FCS team in Florida, like another one, it's never going to hurt you.
And I think you talk about Ohio. Wouldn't it be cool to see a team like Dayton become a scholarship school?
Yeah, it'd be super cool.
I think they would.
Yeah, they got a converted baseball stadium.
Yeah.
Is that that second picture? Is that their plans to renovate?
Yep.
That's pretty cool.
Pensacola. So right. I mean, I'm in.
Interesting. It's cool. Sign them.
Yeah.
Yeah, good question. Good question, Christian. Let us take a look at some things. Good question.
Yeah. I mean, I'm in. Because the A-Sun's got to replace Jacksonville State now, right? And probably they already needed to find a couple more members. So
I really think they go after NCAA. Like, hey, you went to the Big South because you wanted to be super competitive and play with Monmouth and Kennesaw, and now Monmouth potentially going to the CA, which we'll ask Jamie about that because I think that's kind of cool. And then Kennesaw leaving for the A-Sun. Dude, jump over to the A-Sun A&T. I think that would be super cool for you.
Oh, it looks like they play in Welcome Stadium, 10,000 seats.
Hey, that's FCS. That's good enough. Thank you, Rodney, for that.
Yeah, I have, although their Wikipedia has them at this Admiral
I think that's Dayton he's talking about. Rodney, confirm that. I think you're talking about Dayton, but.
Yeah. Because I have West Florida, I have it that Admiral Felton Field and Community Park, and it seats only 5,038. I mean, we saw the renderings, and we just talked about it. Kennesaw is one of the most popular programs right now, and they have a 30 or 8,600 seat stadium.
83.
So. Yeah,
but Kennesaw's can easily expand. Like if they can dump some money into it. Like that is a futuristic program that I think can be successful. Dayton. Yeah. Okay.
Because I agree. I think like you look at football, crazy states. Honestly, I think Georgia could use another FCS program, especially if Kennesaw is trying to make the jump to the A-Sun. Florida, obviously, especially like South Florida, I think could really utilize a team. I would love to see. I don't think they have it. You remember in the March Madness? There's that team that made it for 2 years, made a run. Florida Gulf Coast. Yeah. That would be a school that would be pretty cool if they got a football program.
We actually need some schools out of the areas of like Oklahoma.
Yeah, you know what we don't need anymore? Virginia and the Carolinas. Yeah.
Yeah, some more Midwest schools.
Illinois does not need more. We need more Ohio. Like Illinois, not a huge football town, right? But like Ohio loves football. They got, I mean,
Well,
Frick,
Ohio
you can
loves
make
Ohio
an entire. This is a little known secret. In the MAC, you could actually have an entire conference made up of Ohio schools. The only reason that I believe it's Toledo is in the West is because of Buffalo. If they just put Buffalo in the West, you would have all 7 Ohio MAC teams in one freaking conference. Like, I'm not saying the MAC supports it, right? I was just watching 3 games on Tuesday where there's maybe 2,000 people in the entire stand, but like, that's where I think like Youngstown, love them or hate them, is one of the bigger brands in the FCS level. Like, so I think it'd be successful. Speaking of Midwest needing less, or less football teams, we have Buck the Funnies with us. How the heck are you, Buck the Funny?
Oh, geez, I only got a few minutes here, and then I gotta get back to children. But I just wanted to say, I'm sorry I'm late. I saw some rabbits outside my house. I shot them both because in the United States of America, unlike bison, which are protected because we like them and care about them, you can just shoot rabbits whenever you want. So took them both out, only 2 shots. It was really easy. Nothing too difficult, boys. So sorry, got a lot going on protecting the home front here, but show's been great so far. I've been listening. Got to get back to the kiddos. Love you all. And good luck to all those teams tomorrow.
All right. Buck the Funnies, a.k.a. Matthew Frazee. Probably a bias admin today.
Now, that's how you make a cameo. That is how you make a cameo.
In, out, get your point together. All right. Well, we got like 17 minutes left. Let's spend some time on the Dakota Marker because I've heard you actually can't be an FCS show if you don't mention the Dakota Marker game this weekend. In which case, we just did. So moving on. Next subject. I'm just kidding. Any thoughts
That's
on
not the game of the week,
game?
right, Kyler?
No. We got Portland State versus Weber State, Southern Utah versus whoever.
Idaho.
Yeah. Oh, that's a trash game.
JMU's playing Kansas.
Bottom for
Jesus
last.
Christ. Southern Utah versus Idaho? What a game. What are we talking about? The Dakota Marker?
Yeah. It's on the screen.
Yeah, that's man, I feel bad. Looking at that screen, man. Listen, this is a game of 2 of the top 5 5
we give
programs.
0 craps about Dakota Marker on this show.
We really don't. It's about 2 teams who never think that they get any love. It's 2 fan bases who think everyone's always just crapping on them, and we're always making fun of how bad they are. No, man, this is a fun game. It's a good rivalry that they've built. Ew, disgusting. But you know what? Go South Dakota State. This should be a good game. I watching South Dakota State play this year, how bad they've hit the injury bug. I don't see how they're gonna stop North Dakota State. This is one of those games where like normally you're like, if anyone has a chance to beat North Dakota State, it's South Dakota State because they always play their rivals good, and South Dakota State is good. I just don't see it being as competitive as the rivalry wants it to be. I think NDSU is going to control this game from start to finish. I don't think it's going to be overly close.
I'm going to stick with my NDSU pick, but I did see the South Dakota State depth chart that came out yesterday, and you look at running back and Isaiah Davis on there. So there's a chance he plays. Looked at cornerback, Don Gardner's on there. So they're starting to get healthy. Now, are either of those guys going to play, or are they just putting their names on there that they might play? So North Dakota State's like, oh, we got to prepare for this. Playing gamesmanship, I don't know. I'll still pick North Dakota State and just hope that it's as competitive as the build of the game is. And, if South Dakota State loses, we could just blame Joe and Sean.
No, we want
Sean.
Yeah, Sean's a hack. Joe's a good dude. He's about 5'2". He's he's got a great set of hair and glasses, but
looks like Harry Potter.
Looks a little bit like Harry Potter living in a linen closet or whatever he did. I didn't read the book, but I just don't think this game is as competitive as people want it to be. I would not be surprised if Bison win by. And come on, it's Bison, not Bison, you idiots. But I just don't see how they're gonna not win by 3 TDs.
Well, let me ask you. We're gonna, flip the script here a little bit. We're gonna change games because none of us care about the Missouri Valley. Each of you two can answer these 2 questions for the big game out west. Eastern Washington wins if Montana State wins if.
I'll let Chris go first.
I hate this game. So I have no idea how this game's going to go, to be honest with you. Like, on Tubbs was leaning Eastern because I was like, I listened to too much Kyler Neal. Eric Berry's never lost at home. The Eagles rarely lose at home. And then Brian Marceau immediately corrects me and goes, they literally just lost at home. And I'm like, oh, shit, you're right. I'm like,
100%.
Well, shoot. And I do think that they struggle against good defensive teams. And now you're looking at maybe Montana isn't that good. So maybe that Montana win wasn't as impressive. So maybe I should pick Montana State. Did the same thing with Weber the week before. And I picked Eastern, then flopped to Weber, and then flopped back to Eastern. I feel like I'm going to do the same thing this week. Like, honestly, just like the Weber game, I think this could come down to 1 point. And, Seth Harrison's still seeing that Idaho Vandal scoreboard when he kicks field goals and just not being able to make one. But honestly, I think Eastern wins it at home. I think Montana State, unfortunately, hasn't been tested all year. I know they played Weber and Weber just beat Eastern, but they didn't play Bronson Barron Weber, right? And I'm not saying that Weber. No, Bronson was out.
No, it was his first game back.
It was his first game.
He played and he looked good on the first drive, and then they couldn't do anything.
Then he looked good at the very end, and he was. Well, then
they've been tested. Now I'm going to pick Montana State.
Here's the deal. Eastern Washington wins if they score more than Montana State. Montana State wins if they score more than Eastern Washington.
Hashtag analysis.
Yeah. Hashtag hack.
Hashtag analyst.
Here's my real thing. Montana State does have right now the best defense according to the Big Sky in all of their stats, right? The difference is most of their teams.
They had the easiest schedule.
Yeah. I mean, when you look at the comparable games, they definitely have a win over a team that Eastern Washington lost to. But the rest of the comparable games, you see Eastern Washington blowing out teams more than Montana State could. So it's kind of an interesting game. Both Montana State versus Weber, that was a 1-possession game. Eastern Washington versus Weber, 1-possession game. I mean, these are weird things. Eastern Washington fumbled 6 times, and 3 of them, Weber didn't even touch our player, and we were still fumbling. I don't think Eastern does that again. Luckily, we were able to jump on the ball 3 times. But then we also didn't capitalize on 3 fake punts. I don't think the same things are going to happen versus Montana State, but it is one of those strengths versus strengths matchups. Montana, their strength is their passing defense against Eastern Washington's passing offense, but I don't think they've been tested as much as Weber was. I mean, I think some of the quarterbacks have done a little bit better than the quarterbacks that have played against Weber when they've played against Montana State. So we'll see. I don't anticipate Eastern losing 2 games at home, especially in a row. But it could happen. Montana State, they're the number 4 team in the nation. This is one of those games where if Eastern loses, it's because they lost to a better team. It's not because they were upset or anything like that. But I just don't see the breaks going the same amount of ways, as it went against Weber. I mean, I just don't see it happening. Hopefully we don't give Montana State the field position all game that we gave Weber. Let's get it past the 50 and make them drive. I'm not a big believer in McKay after watching him play all season. He seems good, but he also doesn't seem like a quarterback who's going to win you a game. He looks like a game manager. And, they do have a Fonzie who will win you games, but we'll see.
Montana State went all the way to the quarters one year with a linebacker playing quarterback. So they don't necessarily need a
They went to
either.
the semifinals.
Semifinals with a linebacker playing quarterback. Montana State noted to not need a quarterback to play at a upper echelon level.
Yes, but they had a bum schedule in the playoffs to get there. It happens.
Yeah.
I think this is a pick'em game. As an 100%. Eastern fan, not even trying to be biased or anything, or underrate Montana State or underrate Eastern or overrate Eastern, overrate Montana State. I think it's a game where any one of these teams can win. I've said it throughout the beginning of my Eagles Power Hour podcast. Eastern Washington, with their home schedule they have, is going to lose 1 home game. They lost it. I'm not going to bet them to lose it again. but I thought they would go 9-2 on the season. There's still a very realistic chance they go 9-2 on the season.
Yeah, I think it's
Maybe.
almost as simple as if Eastern doesn't turn the ball over, they win the game. That's kind of what it feels like to me. Because no matter how good a defense is, that offense is eventually going to break through. And I don't love Montana State's offense from afar. I mean, Weber could have beaten them. And,
Probably should have.
yeah, they played Wyoming close, but Wyoming doesn't have Josh Allen. So, it's a big difference there. I just feel like if Eastern can hold on to the ball, then they're going to win the game. That's how I see it.
We're like
now, I don't think there's a blowout, but
no.
Yeah.
We're like
All I
60-0 in the last 60 games. We've won the turnover battle. So obviously, turnover battle is key with Eastern.
Is that that's probably a stat for like 90% of the teams that play?
Yeah.
football.
I don't think they're 60-0 if they win a turnover battle, though. That's insane. If
Hey,
even
I'll tell you
like
what. Hey, we'll get intern Tommy Boy over here to crunch some numbers, and we'll get back to you guys.
Perfect.
I will say as the noted Eric Berrier hater, as in Eric
Yeah, you are.
Berrier hates me. I just want that if Montana State does win this game, people just lay off that like Eric Berrier isn't the Walter Payton Award winner this year. Like there is no other option this year, and I know that this is a bunch of people in Hammond, Louisiana.
Hammond's all over the place.
Aren't gonna like that answer, but like that guy this year is whether his team wins or not is different because he has played like when he throws for 350 yards, it's considered a bad game. Like that's just insane. And we're at the point in the season where Eastern has played people. So you can't say, well, they're doing it to Cal Poly. They're doing it to Northern Colorado. Like he's done it against Montana. He's done it against Weber. And he's probably still, even if he doesn't play well enough to win the game, going to throw for like 350, 3 touchdowns, maybe a pick against Montana State, right? And like that is still, most teams would take that performance against Montana State. I guarantee Montana fans would kill for that performance against Montana State coming up in a couple of weeks. So all I'll say is regardless of how this goes, people just need to like quit the Berrier bashing because, I mean, he's going to be your Walter Payton Award winner this year, in my opinion.
I think Cole Kelly's going to win it.
Probably. But
I wonder who the voters are going to vote for.
Jamie Williams already
I
had
wish we
his
knew a
loss.
voter.
Jamie Williams is voting for Gage Maloney.
Maloney.
I don't know. I don't even think he won the starting job at Bryant. So,
All right, we talked about the biggest game in the middle of the coast. We talked about the biggest game on the West Coast. Let's talk about the biggest game on the East Coast. We got Jamie's newly adopted Keydets playing East Tennessee State. I mean, unless anyone disagrees with me, looking at the games, I would say that's the biggest matchup.
It's a big game.
Yeah.
Because what's the rankings on that? Anyone have stats pulled up or our admin poll?
18. East Tennessee State is 14.
Okay, so there you go. I mean, you're the Keydet master here, Jamie. Talk me into the Keydets because I definitely think ETSU and the Bucks are going to win it right now. But I could be persuaded on this game.
I think I wound up picking VMI by like 1 point. It's another one of those pick 'em games. I like East Tennessee State as well. I love Quay Holmes, one of my favorite players in the FCS. I've brought him up a lot. And unfortunately, I did a disservice to his backfield mate, Jacob Sailors, who is just as good. Holmes has more yardage, but they have the same number of touchdowns, so they'll run the ball. VMI actually runs the ball better than you think, but if Seth Morgan has found something, and he had over 500 yards of offense last week after coming off injury, so is he back in it? Then they just outscore East Tennessee State. I do think East Tennessee State has the better defense, but when that passing offense from VMI is on, they're going to the end zone. Yeah. And they've got a kicker that's very reliable if it comes down to a field goal at the end. So special teams, VMI might have a slight edge there. So I think VMI has the offense and special teams edge. East Tennessee State clearly has the defensive edge. But if East Tennessee State can just run the ball and keep it out of Seth Morgan's hands, then they'll win. And if VMI can just throw the ball all over the field, then they'll win. So it's another toss-up game. I picked, like I said, I picked VMI by like a point.
Yeah. Go ahead, Kyler.
Oh, I was gonna say, this game's so intriguing for everything Jamie just said, and of course he's the big VMI supporter on this whole page, and I'm the one who bashes the SoCon mainly because of Kevin. But love you, Kevin.
But I think we need to for people who haven't met Kevin in person.
He's such a good dude.
In person, Kevin versus Twitter Kevin are very different people. And I think once you meet him in person, you kind of understand that that's just how his online personality is. You get it more because you see some people get really worked up. And I know I used to be like, what is going on here? And then I meet him and I go, I kind of get it. Like when you meet him in person, it kind of blends the personality better. But if you've ever gotten in a spitting battle with FCS Nation Radio 1 on Twitter, just know that it's probably not as actually mean as it comes across.
Exactly. No,
he's a wonderful guy.
Kevin's actually a really good dude. My biggest takeaway is the offenses, I think, are pretty comparable. Now, what Jamie said, of course, is if Morgan is back, VMI's offense looks a little more potent, but their defense is also not good at all. I mean, when you're looking at the points, they both have 269 points on the season, which is kind of crazy to think that they both scored the same amount of points leading up to this game. But the difference is VMI has also given up 249. Now, I get 60 points was to Kent State or whatever it was. But ETSU overall just looks like a much better defense in conference play across the whole season. So I think it's going to be one of those games where it could potentially be a 34-31 type of game. I have more faith in ETSU than I do in VMI to hold one of the teams. I think ETSU can score on VMI as much as VMI can score on most of the SoCon, but I think ETSU can slow down VMI more than really any other SoCon team can. So I'm leaning towards ETSU. I think they're a slightly more balanced team than VMI, who VMI is an SLU, but not as good. So that's how I'm going. I think ETSU. I'm leaning towards ETSU.
Yeah. So yeah, and part of the reason for that, and I think ETSU and Chattanooga have the two best defenses in the SoCon, and VMI only beat Chattanooga in overtime. So the way that VMI has to be able to win this game is they got to get up early and make ETSU chase, because if ETSU doesn't have to rely on Tyler Riddell to throw the ball, and he could just hand off to Quay Holmes, hand off to Jacob Sailors, they'll hold on the ball for 40 minutes and they'll win the game. So I think VMI has to get out early by a couple scores and make ETSU kind of chase the game a little bit.
It's one of those confusing games where ETSU lost to Chattanooga, which VMI beat in overtime, but then VMI against its rivalry game got beat by the Citadel, and ETSU just curb stomped the Citadel. I don't know what to take more into what is more important. It's one of those games where I don't know, man. This is going to be a fun one to watch. I think if you guys are not fans of the SoCon or anything like that, this is a game to tune into. It should be a really fun game.
Yeah, and the reason, and because VMI lost to the Citadel, they got to have this game.
Yeah.
I mean, really, because that's going to really be an anchor on their resume if they lose this game. They have beaten Mercer, they've beaten Chattanooga, which are the other two teams right now in the SoCon with one loss. So it's up to those four teams. So I think two of them get in, two of them stay home.
And honestly, I know this is a hot take, especially with the added conference. The SoCon, for how much it gets shit on, probably deserves 2 bids this year. I mean, you're looking at East Tennessee. If they win out, they'll be 7-1. That means they'll probably beat Mercer, putting Mercer at 8-3. VMI probably needs to win here. Chattanooga, I mean, maybe actually they might beat each other up just enough at the end.
Mercer has to win the conference because they have only 10 games, and I believe one of them is against Point. So they really only have 9 games that count. So they have to win the conference.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens, Southeast Louisiana versus Incarnate Word. If Incarnate Word can upset Southeastern Louisiana is still getting in the postseason. If Stephen F. Austin somehow wins out and beats Central Arkansas, they're legit opportunity to maybe get a bid. Florida A&M, if they win out, they're 9-2, or what are they? Maybe 10-1. They have a chance.
I think it'd be 9-2. Yeah.
9-2 because they lost to an FBS team as well.
Yeah.
So this is one of those things where I do think the SoCon's good enough for 2 teams. I really do. Are they going to get 2? I don't know. Once you add in this extra conference with the AQ7, that last bid that would 100% have gone to one of these other conferences gets taken away. Who deserves it more? If you have, let's say, a 8-3 VMI versus a 9-2 Incarnate Word, and I'm making up the wins and losses because I don't have them in front of me, or a 9-2 Florida A&M. It's gonna be interesting to see who deserves more with strengths of schedules and important wins and stuff like that. Because how it's looking with the Valley and Big Sky, you can call me biased, they are almost a lock for 5 teams each with how it's going to end on the season. Maybe they won't get 5 teams, but at least in every historic season past, if you're getting 8 wins out of those 2 conferences, you are getting a team in. And it looks like those 2 conferences are going to have quite a bit of 8-3 or 7-4 teams, 7-4 from the Valley, that are probably going to steal the bids from some of these other conferences.
I think the only way that the SoCon can almost guarantee 2 is if VMI or Chattanooga wins the conference and East Tennessee State only has 1 or 2 losses because they've still got the FBS win. So East Tennessee State would have to be that at large. If they win the auto bid, then everybody else might stay home.
So that's one of the scenarios. But let's say, what if Incarnate Word wins? In Southeastern Louisiana, they went out and they're 10 or 9-2, and they have some solid wins. It's going to be interesting, and it's unfortunately a good team is going to be left home.
Yep, I think what Jason said is pretty solid for SoCon fans.
Yep. All right, we're over an hour, but as we learned this week, Around the ASUN talked about realignment, and they absolutely killed it. Matt Frazee did his Poor Man's Colin Cowherd solo episode of this season, and it's absolutely already the most viewed on the FCS Fans Nation network. So if you're not already, subscribe so you catch all these things on YouTube. It's free. For those of you that didn't catch us on Facebook today because Chris is dumb, and if you're watching on our Twitter account, subscribe. It's free. We literally have, 7 podcasts that upload during the week now, 6 or 7. So, why not if you love FCS content? Also this show. But we would be remiss. We kind of covered it. Kyler, apparently we started this rumor, and it is getting traction. The snow belt. I don't know if TND is trolling us right now, but Kyler and I kind of spitballed this one day. I don't remember if it was on his show, my show, Around the Big Sky, maybe just on Twitter. I don't know, but this was 2018, 2019. We were spitballing this rough idea of a snow belt conference. Let's just cover the idea, right? You get a Montana State. You get at least South Dakota State and North Dakota State. I think most people would like to see probably South Dakota and North Dakota join. Both those schools have a little bit more roadblocks than the 2 state schools. You get Weber, which, as we said, can Utah really support another G5? Maybe. Eastern.
If Kennesaw can do it, we can.
If Kennesaw can do it, Eastern can do it. Just once again, some more roadblocks to cover. Idaho. I don't want to even get into Idaho right now. Idaho State. No, that's just not.
Fire Petrino.
Fire Petrino. No, sorry. I don't. For reasons. Idaho State.
I can say it.
You can say it. Idaho State. No, they can't expand that dome. I would 100% rather play at Eastern Washington. But I do like the UNI makes sense. Southern Illinois is a school I could see working in, and probably a little bit more east than I'd like to go.
I mean,
but Kyler, we've touched on this. A snow belt idea of a conference. What would your ideal FBS snow belt be? The absolute rival to the Fun Belt.
Yeah. My ideal, if we could somehow make this happen and all the schools could get their finances straight and facilities
you need 6.
Right. So I would do it just like the East and West. Snow belt East and West. The West, here's what I would do. Of course, this isn't going to happen because my team's not going to ever make it. But in my fantasy, it happens. Eastern Washington, Idaho, Montana State, Weber. And then here's the kicker. We convinced Wyoming to come, or Utah State. One of those teams who can somehow figure it out, we can convince them, because by the time we add some of these Missouri Valley teams in, it looks just as sexy as the Mountain West. And you know what? We can capitalize on that amazing Canada market. If Simon Fraser can be a team, so can those Canadians subscribe to the Snow Belt. But those are my 6 teams. So you got those 5 FCS teams, and then you can somehow convince Utah State or Wyoming, because I think that would be a perfect fit. Then you go over to the east side. You have all the Dakotas. South Dakota, North Dakota State, South Dakota. And I'm also in South Dakota State. So I'm also trying to get some type of rivalry. So you have, like, if Utah State, if they could be a rival with Weber, the Montana schools in Eastern Washington and Idaho, since we are so close, you have the Dakota schools as a rival. Then I would love Southern Illinois and Illinois State. Then they can capitalize on that rivalry over there. You got the Sun or the Snow Belt or the Great Northwestern Conference, whatever you want to call it, the GNWs. But I like Snow Belt better. But I think that would be such a fun conference. And overall, there's a lot of promise in that conference. If some schools like that bum Eastern Washington school can figure out a way to make it possible. Right now, it doesn't look like they ever will, so I don't even know why I'm talking about Eastern Washington in this hypothetical fake conference that will never exist. But if we can somehow make it, maybe Cooper Kupp becomes the highest paid, wide receiver in NFL history, and we turn it into Cooper Kupp University. Maybe that's the chance. That's the only thing we can maybe do.
Just rename the stadium and piss off Michael Roos.
Yeah, or Gonzaga West, or UW East. Maybe we just have to do some type of rebranding and get them to support us. But yeah, for the hypotheticals, I think that'd be such a fun conference. And honestly, that's a dangerous conference at any level.
Yeah. I would say, I think you're onto something with the East-West idea. I really like the idea of what the Sun Belt just did with 10 teams. I think it really helped them get from the cellar dwellers to where they are now. I think you do East-West. So obviously you do Montana State. You're at 3 in the West, or 2. Idaho, you're at 3 at the West. Weber, you're at 4 in the West. And then I think you're right. They've got to find a way for either Idaho State or Eastern Washington to make that jump. Those are your 2 schools that one of them is going to have to pony up money and decide they're going to put the big boy pants on.
You jerk.
I didn't even see it. I'm not hosting. Eastern Washington stopped buying ugly turf they could afford to.
Whoever's hosting this is a jerk.
So I think there's your 5 out west. You play those schools 4 games. And then you play the other schools at least 4 times, which means you're only going to have to go across 2, which means there's only one team you're not going to play every year. It'd be every other year. And then obviously you try to get all 4 Dakotas and Northern Iowa. I think that would be pretty perfect conference. Worst case scenario, maybe you get Missouri State, since they seem to be the most ready. Probably the Missouri Valley teams not named North Dakota State to make the jump. But they also don't seem interested. But I think if you got like a North Dakota State conference, they would be more interested. Then I think you do that 10 West, you play each other every year. And then the East, you play, 4 of the 5 teams. So you only have to go to the Dakotas maybe twice instead of 4 times, et cetera. So that would be my idea. But Jamie, what's kind of your idea on a fantasy snow belt conference? So maybe you can see some of those teams you've started to cover for the last couple of years in North Dakota States and the Eastern Washingtons.
I think you guys have kind of nailed it. I think it would be fun. And then set up, a challenge with the
Sun Belt.
The Sun Belt.
And I like TND's idea. The bowl game is Sun Belt champ versus Snow Belt champ versus Sun Belt champ in Kansas City, or like
called
Denver,
the barbecue
Colorado.
Bowl. I get some barbecue ribs.
Way better idea. Who wants to be in Denver in December? Let's go to Kansas City.
What?
Although Kansas City's not nice either in December.
Yeah, it's cold there too. I think
let's just do it. Let's do it in Frisco. They're like basically half. The Sun Belt's basically half FCS now, anyways.
The Sun Belt is tied
Coastal,
to the
Georgia Southern, Georgia State, Texas State, James Madison, Old Dominion, Marshall. They might as well.
The funny thing is that's the joke I made, because the Sun Belt is tied to the Frisco Bowl, so I can guarantee you that's going to be our first damn bowl. Like, let's go to Frisco again.
Oh, and there'll be half the fans in attendance as the national championship.
Don't they play the Frisco Bowl in the Star though?
No, they
No.
play it at the same stadium.
Do they? Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
it's half full.
I'm just gonna go there and then just sit for like 2 weeks in the same seat until everybody else shows up for the FCS game.
Love it.
That's the perfect way to freaking end.
My
because-
last. Well, I need a rebuttal with Chris real quick. Can the Snow Belt really have dome teams?
Yes.
No, you don't play in the snow. You bums, get out of here. And now we can end.
Oh no, we got to end on this. Is the FCS Fans Nation Network. Make sure you subscribe to our channel, and we got to end on a positive FCS note. Like, we have talked so much about all these teams leaving to go to the FBS, and I think we
Eastern
can
will
all
never
safely
leave.
say, yeah, like seriously,
Never.
Jamie, you're still going to be a part of this. Like, if some Jerry Kramer just decides to donate all of his money to Idaho to move back up to the FBS, and Idaho goes like, I'm officially ingrained in this shit. Like, I'm not going anywhere. I love this freaking division of football. Whether my team's in it or not, I'll be like Jamie, and I'm going to start rooting for my Mercer Bears. I'm really loving Mercer. But yeah, we'll just be the SoCon guys. But yeah, I mean, I'm not going anywhere. Kyler, I don't think you have an option to go anywhere.
No. FCS till I die, unfortunately. It's not by choice. It is by demand. Or not even demand. It's by I have to.
Yeah. It is a fun brand of football. It has a passionate fan base of football, which you guys all show. I think we had a concurrent listeners of 22 today, and that's without even getting on Facebook. So, like, all in all, pretty successful little show we do here that, like, is really only on its third episode ever. And, like, so thank you to you guys who all tune in for spending, like I said, you listen all week. We just want to give you something to help maybe get you excited for tomorrow, because we'll probably never get a college game day type show for the FCS level. But that's what we're trying to do here for you. We try to deliver you guys 7, 8, 9, 10 podcasts a week on the FCS Fans Nation Network. So just thank you guys. And remember that it is a very cool level of football that we're in, even though we joke about who's moving where now in FBS, FCS. It's because we're also excited about, like, the Western Florida is possibly joining the ranks of the FCS. So while we cover the FBS a lot these days, it's because it's affecting the FCS a lot. But that was my soapbox. I'm off of it. Any closing thoughts from you boys before we say to see you next week?
Enjoy the games tomorrow, guys. It's a good big day of FCS football.
It
It's
is.
going to make a lot of sense in the playoff bracket here coming up on Sunday. We'll know a lot more.
Yeah, the only thing I want to add is I'm so glad I don't have to be professional on this show. That's it.
Yep. Well, that is it, everybody. We will see you guys next week, and I'm pulling for the Bunnies tomorrow. And I've been North Dakota State #1 all year, baby.
Go Eagles.
Boom. We'll catch you in the next one.